Good morning from Yummy B TV. Wishing you all well today, sending loads of love to you as usual. Right straight in this morning, and as promised from last night, some of you may have seen it already, on my community page, an old photograph of the legendary fighter, and who Uncle Yummy says categorically was the greatest hard man of all time. Rest in peace, our very own Bill the Bomb. It seems like a lot of people out there now are beginning to think the same. But never forget where you first heard it from. Stephen Jones, you and I know that. Right, sitting on his shoulders is another legendary East End figure called Terry Marley, right? Not overly muscly, about 15, 16 stone, but superly strong naturally and very quick with his hands as well. I'm also believing the other guy to the right as we see him, I'm thinking that's billygale, but I can't really tell. But I know that Terry Marley and billygale were best friends and used to go everywhere together, and the Longfellow and everything way back in the day. But remember, I told you billygale passed through Wandsworth when I was banged up as a kid with Freddie Foreman's bestie, Roy Hilder, Gerald Copeland, and the legendary armed robber doing a 20 stretch from Bermondsey, Johnny Reed. Billygale turned up during that spell when I used to walk around the yard with him as an infant to those big name-time gangsters, if you get what I mean. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, and they used to call him the German, right? And he was a funny geezer, but very serious as well. And it was during this time that when I first set eyes on Bill the Bomb, the whole prison, all they used to talk about was Bill the Bomb. And I saw the first knockout as a kid before I got to know him when he knocked somebody out in a dinner queue. Never forget that years later, he would come a grafting part of mine in Pentonville. I always say to you he was the hardest man of all time because I've seen everybody fight at certain stages. But that day in the cell with that five and all the drugs and everything, so it was that everything, they were dropping it all, I was catching it all. They all went on the floor. I got out of the cell after the last one fell, and had the parcels in my hand, right? Bill the Bomb and said, Yummy, don't put nothing down your pants and wait for me, right? Funny, you know, I forgot to tell you not that bit. But Terry Marley, one of those men that used to want to play fight consistently every minute of the day. Play fighting as in, you're right, and touch you on the ribs and that kind of stuff. I think even Manny Clark, as a very young boy, was around him. He would have been about 10, 15 years younger than them. But I know he was around, Manny Clark. Big figure from back in the day, right? But they always used to pretend that they weren't hurt. But really, it felt like their ribs were caving in from little taps from Terry Marley, right? Now, he was that kind of character. Allegedly, you know, for all my other bits of information, he was an all-rounder as well and would use weapons, and a lot of people were scared to even play fight with him. Tony Argent was similar. If you start play fighting with men like that, it can get serious very, very quickly, and so it proved on the Isle of Wight. Now, we knew that Roy Shaw was one of the hardest men with his hands and that kind of stuff. You've been asking me for months, Yummy, we heard that Roy Shaw got stabbed during one of those prison sentences. Well, hey, here what? On the Isle of Wight, during that time, when Roy Shaw was serving his sentence, Terry Marley was on the landing with him. Around at that time was Reggie Kray and Billy Gentry. Roy Shaw and Terry Marley was testing Roy out. You know what the testosterone's like in those places. The wrong men to really be messing about with each other. Terry Marley was doing it first, and Roy Shaw was looking, and he's probably thinking, you're trying it with me now. So they would do little things to each other for a few days. Like one would be leaning on the railings, and Terry Marley would walk past him and give him a nudge, and Roy would go like that. Then Terry Marley would be in the kitchen, and Roy would go, you all right, Tell, and do all that. You know, one of those days, it's going to get really serious. And so it proved. Terry Marley done it one day in the middle of the landing, and it hurt Roy Shaw. Roy Shaw responded straight away with a left and a right. Terry Marley took him through a right back. All of them lot started separating the fight, saying it's stupid, it's childish, there's no need for all this. Terry Marley wiped his lip. He might have had a busted lip or something, and said, oh, all right. Sweet, mate, and hold on, and walked back along the landing to his cell, where he reached in there for a homemade weapon, knife, etc., and came running out. They all parted out of the way, and he poked Roy Shaw 3 or 4 times. Fact, that's who did it. Terry Marley, right? Whether it was an intensive care or very severely, I don't know. But probably more likely superficial, but he definitely Those wounds that you always ask me about probably only happened to Roy Shaw twice in his life in prison, but that was the one on the Isle of Wight with Terry Marley, and that is absolutely fact. More coming up today. We're on the crest of a wave at the moment, sending special love to all of you.